You want more than just the headlines? Find out what's going on and what it means with me, Dennis Prager, this morning at 11, right here on AM 560, The Answer.
House Speaker Paul Ryan on with our friend Sean Hannity the other night talking about the prospects of moving tax reform out of the House and the Senate. He was fairly optimistic.
This is one of the most important things we could do to help all Americans in this country. We ran on this. This is the kind of plan that Donald Trump ran on, that House Republicans ran on. And yes, we're going to get this done. This is about economic growth. It's about bigger paychecks. It's about more jobs. It's about a fairness system in our tax code. So we're really excited about this. That's why we spent all this time working with the president and, yes, working with the Senate and the House to make sure we're on the same page. So we work off this common outline, this common framework to go from here to get this done.
All right, let's venture north of the Cheddar Curtain once again and get an opinion from a Wisconsin Republican in the other chamber.
But he should know that we're licking our wounds from last night's Bears loss.
He is Wisconsin Senator Ron Johnson. And Senator Johnson, let me just start by saying, look, we apologize for the Danny Trevathan hit. We don't think it was intentional.
I do.
Please don't initiate Senate hearings on Danny Trevathan. We have enough struggles on defense without you removing Trevathan from our options.
Well, good morning, guys. And I'm not going to rub last night in at all. But it was kind of fun to watch.
Yeah, well.
But that being aside, Speaker Ryan exactly right. What tax reform should be all about. The goal should be economic growth. If we grow our economy, there will be larger paychecks. There'll be better pay, better benefits. That's really how middle-income America benefits from making American businesses more competitive globally. And right now we're not.
Well, and
that's going to be the primary feature. The primary goal is economic growth.
Yeah, and I mean, this is not exactly treading new ground. The idea of reducing personal and corporate tax rates to engender the growth you're talking about is something that was advocated, obviously, by President Reagan and to great success in the 80s, as well as President JFK to some success in the 60s as well. It's not the whole. That's not the whole matter, but it's an important part of it. So the question becomes, are we going to have problems in the Senate again? Because there's...
you people.
Well, not you, but there's concerns about three of your colleagues in particular, McCain, Collins, and Rand Paul.
Well, it's extremely important how we talk about this and how we explain it. We know it's going to be attacked. I don't care. We could trot out a tax plan that a Democrat offered 2 years ago, and they would attack it. So we understand that. So you do need to explain why it's so crucial that we make American businesses competitive with our global competitors. And right now we're not. The American businesses pay a 35% tax rate, and the average worldwide is about 22.5. And one of the analogies I use, let's say you're in business and you're selling a commodity product. Everybody else around the world is selling it for 50 cents. You're selling it for $1. Again, a commodity product, no difference in quality or customer service. You're going to go out of business. You have to benchmark against your global competition. And right now, when we benchmark, we come off very uncompetitive, which is why you see businesses inverting and setting up corporations overseas. So we've got to recognize that reality, and that's really got to be the primary focus of our efforts is making American businesses more competitive so they can invest, they can grow, they can increase wages and benefits to hardworking Americans.
Yeah, and speaking of those hardworking Americans, middle-income earners, if you have 7 tax brackets and go down to 3, how does that benefit them?
Well, I don't call that simplification. I have my own ideas in terms of tax simplification. What I would do is basically say, if you like all your tax premises, keep them. Be my guest. Keep complying with this 70,000-page mess. Or you can choose an elegantly simple tax system. Get rid of all the junk, have very low effective rates, progressive scale. That'd be my own concept. It's not the choice the White House made. But again, I'm primarily focusing on the growth elements, which is making American businesses competitive so that they can actually grow their businesses and put more money in their associates' paychecks.
But help us handicap the politics of this. Again, you can understand why people are gun-shy about the Republican Senate after what's happened with Obamacare replace. And so Kim Strassel writing about those 3 Republican senators I mentioned in the Wall Street Journal yesterday. Now there perhaps are opportunities with Democrat senators in red states that are up for re-election in 2018 to backfill any Republicans that would bolt. But Paul Ryan made mention, we work with the Senate, we work with the White House to establish a framework. Are you concerned at all that there'll be enough Republican defections and not enough Democrats to backfill that this could stall in the Senate?
Well, I'm always concerned. But again, I think the way you address that and overcome it is concentrate on the goal, agree on the goal. And who could argue with greater economic growth that would, through growth, fill the federal revenue coffers? If we just go from 2 to 3% growth, and recognize that we've been growing anemically. Post-World War II, this American marvel of an economy has grown more than 3%. That does amazing things in terms of economic activity, about $14 trillion, federal revenue, $2 to $3 trillion. If you put that much economic growth, you will get higher wages, better benefits. Every American will benefit. We've got to sell that. And if there's people that don't believe that, well, come forward with your proposals to engender that kind of growth. So, I would put pressure on anybody that isn't going to not only support pro-growth tax reform, but what's your idea? Because right now we are growing far too slow in this economy, and we're going to need that economic growth to grow our military, John McCain, to certainly lower the deficit, Bob Corker. We've got to grow our economy.
What about on the other side of this, sort of on the other side? I don't like to talk in the parlance of paying for tax cuts. It's people's money. But one of the component parts of what's been proposed is the idea of eliminating the deduction for state and local taxes, and that has some legislators, including members of the House, including from Republicans from Illinois, balking because, of course, we're a high state and local tax burden state, as is California, as is New York, and frankly, Wisconsin is a relatively high local state tax burden state as well. So what about that piece of what's been proposed? Are you supportive of that?
Well, I think just obviously that's going to make it a greater challenge, which is why my concept would be let people keep their tax preferences, make our tax system optional. Come up with an elegantly simple tax system that gets rid of all the preferences, all the junk, much lower rates, to give people the option. You choose your poison, in effect. You choose your tax system. I mean, to me, that makes a whole lot more sense. It's a lot more saleable. I think in general, it would certainly run up against less resistance in terms of passage. But again, this is the path people have chosen. We'll see where it goes. But you've always got my plan B out there, having an optional tax system, as I just described.
So let's move over to the Cassidy-Graham bill. We hardly knew it before it went bye-bye. When are you guys going to discuss health care reform again at the level of the Senate?
We'll be discussing it in our budget markup, because both Lindsey Graham and I are trying to work very cooperatively with leadership and our budget chairman to make sure that we include instructions in our budget resolution that would allow us to use, if Democrats aren't genuine, if they're really not willing to help us fix this mess on a bipartisan fashion, just give us in our back pocket the tool to use budget reconciliation to continue to work on and pass the Graham-Cassidy, Johnson bill as well.
All right. He is Senator Ron Johnson. One more question, a political question. National Journal is reporting that on the House side of your congressional caucus, Sean Duffy, of course, Republican congressman from Wisconsin, is considering running against Tammy Baldwin, your colleague in the Senate, liberal Democrat, for her U.S. Senate seat. Do you have any take on the prospect of Sean Duffy candidacy or Tammy Baldwin seat in general that's up in 18?
Well, I think Republicans definitely should be able to capture that seat, and we've got a number of good candidates in. I think Sean would make a very strong candidate. He has really done a great job, and let's face it, that was a very strong Democratic district. His district up there, he solidified that. He wins it running away because he's just a great member of Congress. He's really been involved in some significant pieces of legislation, and I think Sean would make a strong candidate to add to the mix.
Okay, all right. He is Wisconsin Senator Ron Johnson. Senator Johnson, thanks as always for joining us. Appreciate it.
Have a great day.
You too, and he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
This only